Good afternoon, Keller ISD. Welcome to our Kickstart Your Learning YouTube Live today. My name is Christy Harold, and I'm a facilitator for educational technology in Keller ISD.
I'm Chloe White. I'm a senior at Keller High School, and I work for the Genius team at Keller ISD.
Thanks, Chloe, for joining us tonight. In the background, we also have John Hotelling, also a senior at Keller High School and one of our geniuses at Genius Headquarters, and Sarah Smith, and they are our chat moderators for today, so thank you guys. We're so glad that you're here to learn with us about Google Docs today. Our session this afternoon is I didn't know Google Docs could do that. So we hope to give you some great Google Docs learning that can benefit you and your students.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen. So, all right. Okay. So first, we're going to take care of some business. If you're joining us live for the first time, we need to make sure that you can see the chat window. This will be really important for verifying your participation here, so you get your EQ credit. So if you see the chat window on your screen on the right-hand side, like the one on our slideshow highlighted in yellow, you're good to go. But if you don't see a chat window to the right of your viewing screen, you need to perform 3 quick and easy steps to make that happen. Your screen may indicate that you must have a YouTube channel to participate in the chat. To do that, we have put the directions on the screen and we'll talk through them as well. So the first step is your chat window must say that you must create a channel to join the chat. And then you click on the 3 lines in the top left-hand corner on YouTube. It's right next to the YouTube logo. Click on My Channel and then Create Channel. And return to kellerisd.net/kickstart, KICSTART. And I'll repeat the instructions and give you a second to do this because it's really important. So first, your chat window may say that you must create a channel to join the chat. And then click on the 3 lines on the top left-hand corner next to the YouTube logo. Click on My Channel underneath the Home button. Then click Create Channel. And then return back to kellerisd.net/kickstart, KICSTART.
Thanks, Chloe. While we give you a second to do that, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen so we can get started in about 20 seconds. All right, we're so glad that you're here today. If you're participating in our YouTube Live for EQ credit, please note just the following things. Please watch the entire live event. Please introduce yourself in the chat window right now or at the beginning of the event. Let us know who's here, what you teach, maybe what campus you're at. Please make at least one comment or ask a question during the event. We're going to give you several opportunities to participate, so we would appreciate all kinds of participation, especially questions. And then at the end of our event, we'll give you a link to fill out a form for your EQ credit. So let's go ahead and get started. Today, our focus is Google Docs. How are Google Docs different? Google is a product that works in your web browser, so you don't need any special software. The great thing about Google Docs is it's got powerful real-time collaboration features, and that has the potential to change the way we teach and the way our students learn. I know that you probably remember the days of saving a document, emailing it to someone to correct or fix or proofread, and as soon as that person on the other end made a change, your copy and your hard drive was no longer relevant. Well, those days are gone. Today, we hope to show you some basics in Google Docs that will make you more efficient and hopefully also just some powerful ways to use it with your students. Just a quick reminder, you can watch the YouTube Live and refer to this posted video later because we're recording it. So you can watch the things we do and go back later in the video to try them. Or you could try to do these steps along with us by having a Google Doc open in another window. And then again, during the event, please feel free to ask Docs questions in the chat window. We'll do the best we can to answer them. All right, Chloe, we're going to let you get started. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Mhm. All right. So we're going to start by showing how to open a Google Doc. So there's a few ways you can go about this. You can either go to docs.google.com and then you'll be there. Um, you can go from the Google Apps Launcher, which is right here. It's this little grid right here, and then go to Docs. Or probably the best way of going about this, especially if you have if you like having a really organized type of approach to this, you can make like a folder or already have a folder, and like make it exist there. So if you wanted to open a Google Doc here, it will automatically save there. And yeah, you begin your, oh, I changed my format. I'll go about that in a second, actually. So just a tip, but if you immediately start typing your doc, so like lime green doc. Oh, give it a second. It is slow. Oh. And then you click untitled document, it will automatically change the title. So most of you probably know how to set up your page margins under page setup. So basically you just go to File, Page Setup, which is right next to the print button at the bottom. And then basically you can change the orientation, the margins, the paper size, and the page color, which I'm going to reset back to white as my default. But if you did want it to be lime green, you just click this. And then from then on out, that would be your default. And did you know that you can upload a Microsoft Word file and convert it to Google Docs and vice versa? So, okay, I'll do this. I have this lab conclusion open. So what you do is you go to File, Download As, and then Microsoft Word, and then you can open it. And then the formatting usually holds quite well, but if you had to edit it, you absolutely can. And then to up to have a Word document into a Google Doc, you just go to your drive and then you would upload the Word document there. And then you can tell that it's a Word document because it has a W rather than the Google Docs logo. And then you can open it and then press open with Google Docs and then it'll convert it. And then the formatting should again usually hold. Yeah, and here it is.
Great, Chloe. Thanks for those tips. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about formatting. Start sharing my screen with you. Okay, formatting can save you a lot of time and is very handy once you're comfortable using it. So I'm not sure if you know about this little styles button. Sometimes it's kind of a secret button that lives right here, but what it can do is pretty powerful. Typically, you would want to use this from the beginning of a document, but for purposes of showing you guys, we have opened the Sick poem by Shel Silverstein, which we're going to use quite a bit today. So Sick is the title of my poem. And so if I wanted to tell the Google Docs to make that the title, and I click on this little drop arrow and choose title, Google Docs is going to set that text apart, making it more of a title look. Well, let's say Poppins isn't my favorite font. Maybe I like Acme and I want my title to be blue. And maybe I want the size to be a little bigger. And if I want all of the titles in my Google Doc to look like that from now on, I can go back to the title portion of the Styles button and I can update title to match. And from now on, for every title in this document, the title will look like this with the Acme font, blue color, and 35 size. So that's just a way to save yourself some formatting for later on. So we're going to go, and sometimes I might want a subtitle in my document. So I'm going to click Shel Silverstein's name and make that subtitle text. And I'm going to take, I know normally this poem isn't separated out into parts. We did that today just to show you guys some things. I'm going to click different parts that we put in this poem and make them heading ones of my doc. So the reason I'm doing that is that in Google Docs, if I use these styles, one of the neat things I can do later is go back to my insert menu and ask Google Docs to make me a table of contents. When I do that, my table of contents, either with page numbers or without page numbers, I'm going to make sure this table of contents is going to land exactly where I want it. Google Docs will make me a table of contents based on those heading 1 categories. And so I could click on all of these categories are linkable. So if I want to go jump straight to that part 3 of the poem, I'm going to click that link and it's going to take me down in that Google Doc to the part 3 of the poem. So that's a great way to insert a table of contents. If you didn't know that was there in Google Docs, that styles button is kind of a neat button to use. I'm going to flip over to another document and talk about bookmarking. I've got a document here that's an example of possibly some monthly digital citizenship themes. And so my document contains several months of the year for the school year. And if this were a much longer document, I might want to put my months up at the top and bookmark to them so that a person who is looking for May wouldn't have to scroll through a long document, but they could just jump there with a link. So to do that, I'm going to go to where I want my bookmark to live, and I'm going to go to Insert, Bookmark, right above Table of Contents. Now that I have a bookmark there, I'm going to go back to what I want to link to. I'm going to highlight the word August, and I'm going to use my link button. And instead of linking to a website, I'm going to link to what's called a bookmark. And if I down-click that arrow, I'll see the bookmark that I've already put in this document, and I'm going to link to it. So now, I know this really isn't going to jump very far in my document, but if I had a reader who wanted to jump further down in the document, they could click that August and the word August and get to the bookmark, which would push them down to where they were wanting to go. So that's bookmarks, great for documents with lots of information, possibly maybe a parent newsletter. We're going to switch gears and talk about this button right here that's called Paint Format. I didn't know about this button until maybe a couple of years ago, but this is probably one of the most underused buttons in word processing documents. If I did my own formatting in a document and I wanted to copy it to something else, I could highlight a section or highlight the formatting that I'm wanting to copy, click my Paint Format button, and when I go back down to my document, you see that my cursor has turned into almost a paint roller. And what it wants to know is, what else do you want to look like this highlighted section? So if I wanted all of my August or part of my August title to look like the top title, I could highlight and let go, and it will mimic or copy that formatting. So that button is called Paint Format. Super convenient button to have. Let's talk about copying and pasting text. You probably know that when you copy text, you can use the shortcuts Control-C or Command-C and Control-V or Command-V to paste. If I'm copying from another source, such as a website, and I'm just going to go to this Common Sense Media website and highlight some text there. I'm going to Control-C to copy it. And I'm going to go back to my document. And now I wanted to paste it here. Well, you probably most likely know that it's going to paste the formatting from the website when I can Control-V or right-click and paste. So I'm going to Control-V, and I get the formatting that was in the website. If I don't want that to happen, there's a way that I can get around that. So if I go to where I want my information to be pasted and I right click, I have this option that's called Paste Without Formatting. You can see right here that there's also a shortcut, Control-Shift-V, Or you can, if you go up to your edit menu, you'll also see paste without formatting. So when I paste this, it's going to choose the formatting of the line right above it where my cursor was previously, but it's going to copy the formatting that I had in that document, which is super helpful. So I don't know about you guys, but when I switched to Google Docs, two buttons that I really missed up on my Microsoft ribbon were my enlarge capital A and my reduce font capital A. Two buttons that would automatically enlarge and reduce my font, usually by just one font point. And so there are shortcuts for that, which can make your life super easy. I know you can't see my keyboard, but the shortcut to enlarge your font is Control, Shift, and the greater than symbol or the greater than arrow on your keyboard. And my shortcut to reduce font is Control, Shift, and the less than arrow. So that's a super simple way to get that enlarge and reduce keystroke in just one, just keystrokes without having to come up here and change your font size. So what I want you to do right now is if you have a fun docs tip that you love, would you share it in the chat window right now? Maybe we can all learn a little bit from each other. And I'm going to turn it back over to Chloe, and she's going to talk about feedback in docs.
All right, let me share my screen. All right, so we're back to the sick poem. Let's talk about Google Docs for feedback. Google Docs are meant to be collaborative and have amazing features just for that. You probably know that you can leave comments for others in Docs using the Add Comment button. So you can use that from the top menu, or I think this is the easiest way. You just highlight something and then you press this and then add a comment. All editors can comment and see comments, and then editors can click resolve when completed. I think this is really good for if you have if you have a group project, I think this could be really utilized for your students, or if you were editing something of your students, it's really, really good. So another way, if you had like multiple people on one document, which Google Docs absolutely has, you can do the same thing, but you can do plus, and I'll just do myself because I think I'm the only person has access to this currently, but you can say plus whoever's email and then tell them directly to add something or resolve something. I'll just add a smiley face. And then you assign it to them and then they have to do it. And as you can see, it was assigned to me, and it takes about 10 minutes for them to get this back, but they can perform the task and then click resolve when it's done. But yeah, it'll take about 10 minutes for them to get the email that they got this assigned to them. And then Google Docs also has something called suggesting mode. And to go turn your Google Doc into suggesting mode, you go up here to the stylus icon, and currently it's in editing mode, and then you change it to suggesting. And this might possibly be better for a group project, not necessarily teaching editing. It's like track changes in Microsoft Word. So after you do this, if you were really just trying to add a suggestion for a student, or someone else was like peer editing a document, like for an English essay or something like that, everything that you put is just like it'll be recommended to the person that is editing it. So if you were like, my left leg is broke, let's just say they spelled leg wrong, it's league. So you could like say, or maybe you wanted it to be league. You can actually just put that there, and that's what the student would see, and then they could literally just say accept suggestion, and then it would automatically do it. It's a really easy way to edit a document for someone else.
Thanks, Chloe. Those are great tips. We're going to take a second now. I'm going to screen share with you guys again. And And we're going to look at some other things that we can do in a Google Doc possibly for your students. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with tables, but if you're not, tables are an incredible resource in Google Docs. To insert a table, I go to Insert and Table, and I choose the size right away. Really won't matter what size you choose because you could edit the table later. You could remove columns, remove or add rows. But once a table pops into your document, it's almost like a mini spreadsheet that you can work with. Why would you want to work with a mini spreadsheet in your document? Well, for one thing, these cells hold text and images for you in a certain place. I don't know if you've ever had trouble with a picture floating around in the wrong place of a document, but one thing tables can do is hold information in the place where you want it. One thing I do highly recommend is before you insert a table into a document, that you at least have one cursor line or one line of text above it, because it's kind of difficult to move tables around. It's not always the most fun thing to figure out. So always having one line above it makes it easier for you to control what actually is going to go on top of the table. But in your table, you've got your rows, you've got your columns, and you probably know that you can format these in certain ways. When you're using tables, right-clicking is very much your best friend. Most of your options are always on the right-click menu for tables. So let's say I have this row at the top, but really what I want is just not 3 separate cells. I want one row at the top because this is going to actually be my title. Maybe I'm going to have my students do some butterfly research. And I want that cell, I want to center the title. I want it to be larger, so I'm going to use my shortcut to make that the size I want it. And maybe I want it to look a little different, so I'm going to add a blue bar behind that title so that it stands out. Then maybe I'm going to have some questions that I want my students to answer. I want them to do the research and put it in a cell, and then I want them to add an image. So I want my students to look at the life cycle of a butterfly. All right. So one tool that I really want to introduce you to right here is called the Explore tool. But actually, before I do that, I want to talk about something else. If you've taken the time as a teacher to set up a Google Doc like this and you want to be able to share it with your students, I'm confident that you are familiar with the share capabilities of a Google Doc. If you click that share button up at the top, you can get a link that's shareable. You can have your students view it, edit it, comment on it, however you want to share it. You're able to share it with your students through a link. Once you share it, though, kind of the hard part with younger students is that they might jump in and start working on that document. And maybe this is a project where you don't want everyone working on the same document. Maybe you want them to have a copy. And so as a teacher, you may have set up standards where you've taught them to make a copy, and that is awesome. If you're not sure where that is, the file make a copy button is right here, and your students could use that to make their own copy of a doc to work in. But there is something called forcing a copy in Google Docs. And I went ahead and put a slide in the slideshow that you'll have access to later that has some more directions on this, some more step-by-step. But if you take that link where you've already shared and you change the word edit to copy, what was right there before was the word edit. I just highlighted the word edit and changed it to copy. You're going to look at what that looks like. If my student took that and tried to use the link to open the document, they would not get to my document. They would get to this screen that forces them to make a copy before they go on. So that is a handy thing that Google Docs can do, and I wanted you to know about that before we moved on. Now let's talk about this awesome tool called your Explore tool. You should be able to get to it in the bottom right-hand corner of any Google Doc. It is also under the Tools menu up here. And your Explore tool automatically thinks about what is already in your Google Doc and what you're working on. When you are ready, You type in what you're searching for, so life cycle of a butterfly. And what you will see are some possible websites that might help you with that or help your students, some images, and it's also going to try to search things from your drive that you might already have about that topic you're searching on. If you choose one of these websites and click it, it's going to push you out. It's going to open in a new window. And I've already researched this content. I'm going to grab this content. We would never want a student to copy and paste it, but for time today, we are going to right click and paste it without the internet formatting. And I've got my research right there. Now, one thing that's super important writing papers today is that citing your sources. So if I go back over to this website and I just hover there, I've got this button with quotation marks. And if I click Cite as a footnote, you'll see that I got a little 1 right here in my research. And it's cited in MLA format, the source that I used. If you need a different type of format, you can click these 3 buttons right here, and you could choose APA or Chicago format. But that citation is amazing, done for your students. I can also click over to images, and maybe this, I'm going to be sure I put my cursor in the right place. This is a great image to go with my project about butterflies, my research. If I click on that image, I have got the citation of where that image comes from. So that Explore tool is an amazing tool for kids. Let's talk about the history of a Google Doc. Because a Google Doc saves as you go, sometimes you might need to go back and view something you did before or the history of your doc. You can do that under the File menu by going to Version History. And if you click See Version History, over on the right, you're going to be able to see when this document was edited. This is super handy for teachers because I can see who did the editing. I can see when it happens. I can even expand it if lots of editing was done about the same time. If I'm using these 3 dots, I can name a version, like maybe this is what I want to keep, or I could make a copy of it. So I have a copy of what's done to this point, but also a copy of what was done to March 27th at 4:05. The other thing I can do is I can restore a document. Maybe everything I did from this point was not something I wanted to keep, so I could restore back in a version in history. So that's some helpful hints with history. File history can be a super helpful thing with Google Docs since they save as you go. Chloe, I'm going to pass it back to you and let you talk about Google's other tools real quick.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so we're back to the sick poem. Let's talk about Google Docs tools feature. So the tools button is right here next to format. And there's a bunch of different things that you can use. So spelling, Google Docs will automatically check your spelling, but make sure that they're on, I guess, and it'll underline all the errors. So if you were worried about like the function on Google or Microsoft Office being gone, it is still there in Google Docs. Word count, you can either go to Tools, Word count, and then it'll say it right here. So this poem is 235 words. Or you can do what it says as well, Control-Shift-C. Dictionary, it'll define any word that it's using. Right now it's defining chin because that's what my cursor is right next to. But you can highlight any word and it'll look it up automatically. Voice typing is a really neat feature that is under the Tools button. So this is really good, I think, for students that may be a little younger that are maybe not ready to like type a full essay or might be a little overwhelmed with a lot of typing at once. So what they can do is use this, and if I wanted to make a review of Sick by Shel Silverstein, and it'll automatically do it. And it's really, really cool. Translating a doc. So you go back to Tools and then Translate Document, and it'll actually automatically make a copy of this And you can choose any language. We can go Hindi. And it made a copy, so it's not going to impact the original document at all. And yeah, here it is. But keep in mind that, of course, this is not going to be perfect because it's a direct translation. I could only imagine what the direct translation of this poem with a lot of misspelled words in the first places, but it still will do it somewhat accurately, which is great.
Thanks, Chloe. Google Docs has some really cool tools. All right, Keller ISD, I know that we are out of time, so we're going to finish up here. John and Sarah are going to be posting the links in the chat. And I'm going to get to our last slide in the slideshow so that you also have the links. We skipped some content today. We just had so much content for Google Docs, and there's the instructions for Force a Copy if you'd like them. We skipped talking about hyperdocs and choice boards and extensions and add-ons. So that content is there in the slideshow, which you have access to now. Feel free to look at it, or maybe we'll tackle this subject another time and go a little deeper. So the link to the Google Docs slides today is the bit.ly at the top with the /2HKIGTI. And the link to fill out the EQ form is on the screen as well. It's the bit.ly /2RWSURY, and bit.ly links are case sensitive if you weren't aware of that. John will also be putting those in the chat, which you'll have access to this complete presentation. So you could always scroll through all the way to the end to this slide or scroll through the chat window as well once we go off air. It was great to have you this afternoon. Thank you so much for your participation. We appreciate you. Thank you, John and Sarah, for moderating the chat for me. Thank you so much, Chloe, for co-hosting with me. It's never an easy thing to do, and she did a great job. Our next YouTube Live is going to be coming up in April, so look for advertisements, tweets, emails, and look for it in the DWW. We'll give you plenty of notification of it. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night. We'll see you next time, Keller ISD.